welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mideles, and I am your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. We got a jam-packed show for you today. A little later in the program, we're going to hear from our Jorge Vela about an app that's been developed to alert people when ICE is in their location. So we'll hear from the creator of the app as well as what that app is all about exactly and what it entails in just a little bit. We're also going to hear from our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendez, who's going to be bringing us, and when I say this, I mean it, the very latest on the newest immigration detention center, which is opened here in the state of Texas out at Fort Bliss, to be specific. So we're going to have more from him. We just got off the phone with each other, and he tells me that he literally just walked back in the door. So we're going to have the very latest for you on that. But up first, let's take a look at some of the headlines making news across the border, starting here in South Texas, where, as you know, federal immigration raids on businesses have been going on since the beginning of the year, since the beginning of the Trump administration this year. We've been telling you about them. We told you about one that was happened in February, and the final verdict finally just came back down for two bakery owners last week, now found guilty of harboring migrants. But mayors and business leaders now all across the region met on Friday to discuss quick, sensible solutions to the ongoing immigration crackdown. Many industries in this region, including the concentration of agriculture, are struggling to find enough workers to pick produce from the fields and work in the produce warehouses. Now, leaders hope that Congress and President Donald Trump can find a solution to maintain a stable workforce in the region. Farmer Jed Murray says that growers here in the Rio Grande Valley are now facing a very harsh reality, and that harsh reality could soon hit our dinner tables, not just here, I'm talking across the country. He says the food supply chain could be impacted if nothing is done soon, as harvest season is going to start up here in just a few months. And without enough workers, he says his crops and those of other farmers throughout the area may be left to rot in the fields.
Farm workers I'm friends with, right now they're just sitting at home. They're not going outside the house, they're not going anywhere. And so I suspect that'll still be the same case, because they're going to be nervous about being in transit on the road and being pulled over and then being arrested. We need to take the pressure and the fear off of our employees and the citizens here in the valley and let them to be able to get out and move around and go back to a normal life.
Now, McAllen, Texas Mayor Javier Villalobos, who is a Republican, those municipal seats aren't assigned to any party down here, but he does identify as a Republican, also said that he has seen construction projects put on hold and local hotels scrambling to find workers because so many immigrants are afraid to show up to work for fear of getting raided by ICE. And he says those delays could impact city budgets if these types of developments continue to be placed on hold. So as you can see, this is a bipartisan issue at this point down here in South Texas. Now, Villalobos and Murray agree that the latest, or the fastest solution, rather, is an executive order from President Donald Trump that ends the targeting of workers in agricultural fields, hotels, and construction sites. Again, those are three of the Rio Grande Valley's biggest industries here. Now, we're going to hear more from Jorge Vela in just a little bit on this ICE app that we were telling you about. We're also going to hear from him on this. He was there at that economic roundtable, so we'll hear from more on from him on what was said later on in the program. Also happening in Colorado, specifically, Congressman Jason Crow, a Democrat, representing Colorado, spoke with Margaret Brennan on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday about immigration. Now, Crow says he was first denied access to the immigration detention facility in Aurora, Colorado. That's just outside of Denver. And now Crow says he's being denied basic information about who's being held there. He said he was unable to get an exact head count at the facility, let alone information on who's being detained and whether they have criminal records. He said, quote, "This administration just tripled the budget of ICE, made it the largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the United States, bigger than the FBI, ATF, DEA, all others combined, and they are putting in roadblocks to prevent oversight, to prevent transparency, because they are trying to hide what they are doing. That is unacceptable, so we filed the lawsuit to force them to abide by federal law that guarantees us access, and we'll see where that heads next," end quote. Crow says he was unable to truly assess the conditions at the facility because the whole place was on lockdown for the entire visit. And speaking of ICE detention facilities, it's time now to bring in our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendez. He joins us now. And like we told you, Fort Bliss opened over the weekend. Julian, fill us in on what you saw out there.
Yeah, really. Good to be with you again. Yeah, I just got back from the facility itself, the outside of the facility. This morning, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, the Democrat who represents most of El Paso, got an opportunity to go inside the facility, which is something that her fellow lawmaker, the Republican Senator John Cornyn, wasn't able to do. He got basically a driving tour. Anyway, so she went in and she tells us the following, that the largest U.S. immigration detention center in the country is open for business. And on its second day of operation, it already is housing 1,000 migrants. Now, Representative Escobar told us that contrary to what's being reported and what's being said by some of her colleagues, the facility does not have merely people, migrants who are criminals or migrants with a final detention order. She says that she learned that inside there are migrants from as far away as Florida, some of them who were only recently detained either by Border Patrol on the border or by ICE in the interior of the country. So she's very much disputing some of the previous statements that have been reported by everybody in the country. Now, she described the facility as a massive tent city. It is canvas tents. You can see them in the background. They're white, right behind that structure. And she says that they're capable of housing up to 5,000 migrants. And that capacity is going to increase from the current 1,000 to a much, much larger as construction goes on and more tents are finished.
Now, Julian, you just mentioned as construction goes on, how fast, I know you've been watching this from the day they announced that there was going to be a detention facility there. How fast has everything been growing there? Has everything been moving? How fast have they been expanding?
Rudy, I don't have words to describe how fast the construction has been going on. Since it was announced, and I was among the first to report to find the facility, basically, from outside Fort Bliss. From the minute that we found it, we saw that there were already massive tents ready to go and many more continuing to be constructed. Today, what we saw was a lot of trucks coming in with anything from drinking water to construction supplies to the supplies that you would expect incarcerated or detained people to need. And the Congresswoman herself said that this facility requires a tremendous amount of supplies, resources that she argues could have been better used in the community in El Paso. For instance, social services like Medicaid money, health screening money. So it is going up. It's going up pretty fast. It's filling up pretty fast. And there's a definite controversy as to who exactly is being housed there. What we do know is that those people housed there are headed out of the country. They are in deportation procedures. Some of them, the Congresswoman mentioned, are opting for voluntary departures. That typically applies to Mexican migrants or immigrants who can just be bused real short distance to the international bridges. But there are many others from other nationalities. Like I mentioned, this center is receiving migrants from as far away as Florida, perhaps from the Midwest, and from smaller facilities, maybe even here in El Paso, because I know that the one ICE operating, highest detention facility here in El Paso was almost at capacity, also along on Montana Street.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they're bringing folks from Florida. It makes you wonder if they're bringing folks that will be eligible for that self departure, since it's, closer to the border for them, maybe brings costs down. But it's also interesting that they're talking about building a second so-called alligator Alcatraz as these other facilities open up. Julian, thank you so much for your reporting on that. I know you're also following developing news on a massacre that happened south of the border. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, I've been running ragged all morning, really. Yeah. Yeah, we were investigating reports of yet another drug-related massacre in southern Mexico. This one is in the state of Guerrero, and strangely enough, it involves eight community police officers. Now, let me give you the background. Back in the 90s, several residents of these drug-infested communities got fed up that sometimes police were in collusion. Sometimes they called the police or the army, and they didn't show up. So they formed their own police. They armed themselves and they patrolled their own communities. Now, 2 years ago in 2023, a total of 13 people, including a majority of the members of this community police, got massacred in a community very near to where this massacre happened just a couple of days ago. They were ambushed by drug traffickers, perhaps mistaken for a rival gang, and they were killed. Now, fast forward to this past Saturday, eight community police officers were on patrol in rural communities in the state of Guerrero, which has a coast for which the resort town of Acapulco is famous for, but also has mountains. And in those mountains, according to law enforcement officials in the U.S. and in Mexico, drugs like plants that are used to produce drugs, like opium poppy, which is used to produce heroin, are grown. So there's a battle by the cartels for control of that territory and exclusivity in growing that type of crops. So this is just the latest massacre in a state, in a region where the drug cartels seem to be running things. Now, we don't have much official information on the incident this past Saturday, which left eight police officers dead, because the community did not allow the state police from Guerrero nor the Mexican army to come into their community. Such is their distrust. And this is just one more element that adds to the puzzle of how to rein in the cartels in Mexico.
Very interesting stuff. Thank you so much for your reporting. We appreciate you running all over El Paso and beyond this morning for us, Julian. Thank you so much. All right. Well, stay with us, because when we come back, we're going to hear from Harlingen, Texas KVEO reporter Jorge Vela on that Ice Block app, and a little bit about what he heard at that economic roundtable on Friday. Stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. We wanted to thank our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendez, one more time. If you want to stay informed on the reporting that Julian does, or Salvador Rivera out in San Diego, Sandra Sanchez, our South Texas correspondent, you can stay informed on the stories shaping the U.S.-Mexican border, on your commute, on your drive home, on your walks with the dog, because we are now available in audio form. Border Report Live is bringing you real-time updates, expert insights, and voices from both sides of the border in podcasts now. So you can listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as the iHeartRadio app. Now, joining us here today, this afternoon, is Harlingen, Texas KVEO reporter Jorge Vela to talk about this new app. Jorge, it's called the Ice Block app. Fill us in on what it is exactly.
Definitely. This is a fascinating app. I got the chance to speak to the developer, Joshua Aaron, about it. And he said he started developing once he found out that President Trump was going to win a second term. That's when he started doing it. And essentially, he calls it the Google Maps of ICE. And what it does is people can report whenever they see any activity regarding federal agents or ICE agents in an area. And it would map out within a certain mile radius that there's activity going on. And people would get that notification if they have the app. And essentially, he said he wanted this as a way for people to avoid getting that area, also to help people before any traffic jams, if there's any investigation going on. But let's hear from Joshua a little bit and see what he tells us about the app.
Farm workers I'm friends with.
is a crowdsourced app, and that means all of our users can report when they see ICE in public, and we call that reporting a sighting. When you're in a 5-mile radius of a reported sighting, all those other ICE block users get a notification on their device to say, hey, ICE has been cited here, and hopefully they make the decision to avoid the situation altogether. Turn left, turn around, go home, just we are not about confrontation. We are not about obstructing law enforcement. I want to be really clear on that. This is about avoiding confrontation in the first place.
Now, Aaron did say that he wanted to be clear that this has nothing to do with stopping ICE and their job, their activities. And he also expressed that during that interview a few weeks ago, 750,000 people already had the app. Today, I texted him just a couple hours ago, and he told me already 1 million people.
1 million.
1 million people have this app already downloaded in their phones. And he said it's just to inform people that there's certain activity going on to avoid that area or find another route. And he does say it's in a way to protect people who might be here living undocumented, might be heading to the farm to work or stuff like that, so they cannot report to that area. But in no way he says this is obstructing justice. And he also asked him if any spamming could happen, any false reports, any misinformation that people might just be clicking and putting, hey, there's something going on without anything really going on.
Yeah, that's a question I was going to ask you, because you said 1 million people are using this app. That's a lot of people that may not, have the best intentions in mind. I know a lot of folks are very supportive of law enforcement. We've seen that ICE attacks are, whether, what's classified as an attack is, regardless of what it is, it's still classified as an attack. And so, are there any concerns that this might be misused?
Exactly. And that was the main question I had. I mean, anybody can just go in because nobody has to make an account or anything. You just go in, click on something, whether you see it or not, and it activates. So I asked him, hey, what happens if people are spamming pretty much the app? He told us this.
There might be some false reports, but just know that we have put a bunch of safeguards in place, such as you can only report one location every 5 minutes. You can only report, you have to have a valid address to report it. You can't just type in 123 Main Street and report and start spamming the app. This has to be a valid address from a drop-down list of autocompletes, or you're tapping on the map, which of course validates the address right there. All reported sightings are automatically deleted every 4 hours. So the worst case scenario that we could think of is that people at risk avoid those situations or avoid those locations for a couple of hours.
Oh, definitely. And I also asked ICE about this. What were their thoughts into this app? And they pretty much said it paints a target on their back. They say that attacks and assaults and even threats have grown up to 500% in the past few months. And they say this app is another way that they can be attacked, targeted, and maybe even prohibit doing their investigations and their work.
And we've heard from the developer of the app. We've heard from director Todd Lyons about it. What did people in the community have to say about this? I know you've been reporting on, and we've seen it here in our community in the Rio Grande Valley, these different businesses putting up, no ICE agents allowed unless you have a warrant signs, whether that be because they're going to act on that or because they want to stand in solidarity with different other businesses. What are folks saying to you?
Yeah, when it comes to this app, many people have mixed reactions on it. I mean, most of the people I talk to say it could be a good idea just to help that farmer that might be heading to work feel safer. Hey, there's no activity going on. And also for any person just wanting to continue their normal life. However, people do support law enforcement, especially here in the Valley, and they don't want any app or anything else to prohibit the work these federal agents are doing. So they have mixed feelings about it. Nobody I spoke to says they have the app, even though there's over 1 million people with it. But they do say that if it does help, then go for it.
Now, how private is the app? Let's say I want to put in information. I mean, could the government subpoena that information later if it turns into one of these incidents turns into an assault on ICE agents or other federal law enforcement authorities?
I definitely asked Aaron that exact question, and he said that the app doesn't collect any information. There's no information collected at all. People don't even have to make an account in order to use it. So he said pretty much if the government would be to subpoena the developer to get more information about the app, he would not have any records. All the records stay there for about 4 to 5 hours. That's when that mark they put, that pinpoint they put if any activity deletes itself. And after that, there's no record of the information.
So even if law enforcement wanted to get, they would have to get some sort of, subpoena or something within a very small time frame to be able to get that information then.
Exactly. And as of now, I texted him a couple hours ago. He has not had any subpoenas or any litigation against him or the app.
Speaking of collecting information, I have to ask, is there any financial gain for the developer with this app?
Definitely. I did point out that if there was any gain, if there was any ads, or did he charge or something?
Yeah, I mean, 1 million users, that could, potentially be a lot of money.
Exactly. And according to him, there's no monetization of this app. He did send me the metrics today when I did see the 1 million units, or the 1 million people who already have downloaded this app. And there was no metrics when it came to money or any financial gain. So as far as we know, and as far as the developer has let us know, there's no financial gain.
And who can get this app if they wanted to get it?
Now, even though the app is open for everybody, it's only for iOS software right now. That means only iPhone users can download this app. I personally have an Android, and I wasn't able to download the app. But people who have iPhones, they can easily download it. And it's, I think it was the top 3 as of today app for social networks.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I know you've been speaking with the developer about this app for some time now, so we appreciate that update, especially 1 million users. Wow. It just kind of goes to show that, immigration and just the border in general are on the tops of minds of people, not just here along the border, but all across the country. Real quick, before we get to a break, I wanted to talk about that roundtable that you went to on Friday. We only have a couple minutes left here, but one of the things that I wanted to point out that it was a bipartisan meeting in a lot of ways. It was a local mayor here in McAllen, Texas, who is a well-known Republican, so much so that when he was first elected to mayor, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas actually sent him a welcome message to local politics. Tell us a little bit about what kind of solutions they're looking for.
Essentially, the main solution they want is an executive order by the president. Mayor Javier Villalobos from McAllen, he does say that, the president has signed many executive orders, that it's time for him to sign one where they protect the agriculture, the hotel, and other industries where migrant workers, play a big part. And he said that as of right now, there's a lot of projects stagnant in the McAllen area. There's construction projects that are halted up to the point of no new development coming in. I did ask him if this will affect the budget for the city. I know many cities are working on their fiscal budgets of right now. He did say there might be a small dent, but if this continues and nothing is done by the end of the year, he believes that next year's budget will be greatly affected by this. So that is why Villalobos and also the mayor from Alamo was there. They're asking for immediate action, an executive order, and hopefully the president acts on it as soon as possible. And one more thing to point out, they did show data that a lot of Republicans do support actually any farmers to work here legally and stuff like that. And also one thing that farmers did say is that they don't have any workers by October, harvest could be lost.
Yeah, nobody wants to make their earnings by cashing an insurance check. Not that I'm a farmer, but I think I speak for most farmers when I say that out loud. Well, thank you so much for your reporting, Jorge. We appreciate you being here once again. It's Jorge Vela from KVEO TV in Harlingen. Stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. To this Monday edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles, and I am your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. Now, over the weekend, the Department of Homeland Security announced their latest list of the worst arrests of undocumented migrants with felonies that were arrested here in the United States. They include Hilberto Velazquez Ramirez. He's an immigrant from Guatemala, and he was convicted for homicide by vehicle in Potawatomi County, Iowa, which is just the county just east of Omaha. Gilberto Castillo Talavera, a 29-year-old Honduran, convicted for sexual assault of a child in Travis County, Texas. That's Austin is the county seat there, the state's capital as well. And Gustavo Jose Gonzalez Requeri, a Cuban convicted for a lewd act with a child in Riverside, California, which is about an hour east of Los Angeles. So those are the latest worst of the worst that were picked up by ICE agents this week. Now, before we go, we want to remind you to check out our partners at Political Power Ranker. It's a show that tracks the movers, shakers, and rule makers in American politics. Nextstar's Director of Political Content, Chris Berg, and Director of Emerson College Polling, Spencer Kimball, break down who's up and who's down in the world of politics based on the latest, and I mean the absolute latest data. Now, this week's episode focuses on the Texas U.S. Senate race and redistricting with new polling from Emerson College. There's also some discussion of California's redistricting plan, so make sure to check it out. You can find more on Political Power Ranker at abc27.com or your local Nextstar station's website. And you can find out more about us at borderreport.com. That's where you're going to get all the reporting from Julian Resendez, our El Paso correspondent, Salvador Rivera out in San Diego, and Sandra Sanchez right here in South Texas. For the three of them and Jorge Vela, my name's Rudy Mireles. We'll see you tomorrow.